Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts from SteelersDepot.com, where you can find all your latest and greatest Steelers news. It's Dave Bryan and Alex Kozora, always lit, talking Steelers. And now, here's Dave and Alex.
Welcome to the Terrible Podcast, Season 14, Episode 131. He's Dave Bryan. I'm Alex Kozora, SteelersDepot.com. Thanks for being back with us here this Monday. Steelers Nation, Dave, exiting Pittsburgh Steelers rookie minicamp, which took place Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Next thing on the docket for the team will be OTA starting May 21st. The whole team will get together. The Steelers have a new addition, Dave, signing cornerback Anthony Averett, who was a rookie minicamp tryout veteran player, former Baltimore Raven and Detroit Lion to their roster. So a little bit to talk about today. Dave, how you doing?
I'm doing fine. I think we should start by recapping your Pirates.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Am I allowed to go back? This is kind of a weird gray area for my
man. I don't know what it is about you and trying to go see a Pirates game, but this was peak Alex Kozora Pirates experience, was it not? You got to go. At least you got to go see Paul Skeens pitch for a couple of innings there before the bottom fell out on both I guess him and the weather. And then I take it that you didn't want to hang around for the 17-hour rain delay or whatever it was. I'm being funny. I know it wasn't that long, but I think you got out of there, and you got out of there in just enough time for the Pirates to come back after the rain delay and actually save Paul Skeens' day. So what is it about you and the Pirates there?
Yeah, I don't think I'm good luck overall. It was a lot of fun, though, to be there for Skeens' debut. He was electric. The fastball obviously gets talked about so much, but that splitter or splinter, whatever he calls it, might be his nastiest pitch because it's like 95 and just drops off. It's such an effective pitch, but he was fun. And then what was less fun was watching, like, was it 20 straight balls to bullpen through? I mean, I left, on that note, whenever they basically walked in the tying run, being up 6-1 to make it 6-6. I get home, turn on the TV. The literal first pitch I saw was the ball 4 from, I think, Holderman that made it 7-6. And so it was just comical in that sense. But they came back and got the win. And again, at least you can say you were there for Paul Skeens' debut.
How long were you actually in the ball? How soon did you get there before the ball game started? And when did you decide? Were you actually there even 2 hours or so at the ballpark before leaving?
No, we were there for a good bit. I got there around 3:00, and I mean, I'm not even sure what time it was. Whenever the rain delay started, it was top of the 5th, and then we tried to stick out the rain delay for like an hour or so, just decided to go home at that point. So yeah, a little bit of a bummer overall to not see the victory, but good to see his debut.
Did you have any food while there or whatnot, or?
Yeah, just typical. Hot dogs, that kind of fanfare, but good experience overall.
All right. Well, at least you got to go. At least you got to say that you were there, and hopefully his next outing will be a little bit better. I mean, look, it wasn't awful. It just got himself in a situation, and the bullpen gave up some earned runs against him and all. But it was fun watching that on TV and watching all the hype come to fruition there.
Dave, it was fun to hear about the Steelers back on the field, at least the rookies and some select first-year players. Again, the entire team was not participating this weekend just for those select 43 players. But some things to talk about there in terms of the rookies, the draft picks. But we'll start, though, with the signing Anthony Averett to a 1-year deal, one of the two, really kind of true experienced NFL players invited to minicamp, running back Jonathan Ward, the other. As of right now, early Monday, Averett's the only name that we know that's been officially announced by the team as well. I know last year, I think Alfonso Graham got signed on a Wednesday after rookie minicamp, and so maybe something else will come in. There are still 2 open roster spots available, but Averett started 14 games in 2021, has primarily been an outside corner, played a bit in the slot as well. I imagine he'll get looks at both, given the need really at both positions, but especially in the slot. So obviously, you can't assume he'll make the team, but some veteran depth.
Yeah, did he even play any regular season snaps in 2023? I don't believe he did he?
No, he had gotten hurt and then spent some time on the Lions practice squad, but zero defensive snaps, zero snaps of any sort.
And I think 2022, he had very limited action. I think, let's see, he played 242 snaps outside, 10 snaps in the slot there. 26 in box type situations. And really, I think you got to go back to 2021 to his last kind of serious game action. I believe that was with the Ravens. I think he had 3 interceptions that year. What do you have? Double-digit pass defenses that season and all like that. And once again, I think he played, 692 snaps out at wide corner, 53 in the slot, and played a little bit on special teams there, not overly much. So this is a guy that at least has some experience on the NFL team. We'll see where it goes from there.
Yeah, I think it's important to get, again, a veteran presence because this secondary is not only, I think, kind of thin, but it's really youthful overall. I mean, Dante Jackson is a veteran that they acquired in the Deontay Johnson deal, but besides him, it's second-year Joey Porter Jr., second-year Corey Trice Jr., who missed his entire rookie season, second-year Darius Rush, who didn't play much as a rookie. Future guys, you get the idea. So I think that's important. Again, Averett has been primarily an outside guy. I bet they're going to try to work him inside, outside again in the slot position. Really not much there right now for this team. So I wonder if more moves are coming, but for now, that's one.
Did he play? Was he at Alabama the same time Minkah was?
He came out in 2018. So yeah, I assume there was a decent amount of overlap between the two because Minkah was 19.
Yeah, so at least you got some familiarity there. Look, they got enough outside guys, right? They need some guys that play in the slot. So maybe that will be the path that he tries to take the rest of the summer here.
Sure, just somebody with experience and potentially some versatility. I think those are good things. So we'll get eyes on him in training camp. Again, can't expect too much, can't assume he'll make the roster, but obviously he did something to impress this team enough during that tryout, and that earned him the contract.
Yeah, you remember what last year was it during the draft that Chandon Sullivan got signed, or right after the draft and all? So yeah, it's not uncommon. Look, they had some roster spots to fill here on the 90-man unit, and we'll see what transpires later today. They're going to fill these things up, you would think, by the time OTAs start, which would be, I guess, a week from
tomorrow.
Week from tomorrow. Okay.
Yeah, 21st will be the first day of OTAs. Would this be veteran benefit contract? Is there a max on the number of veteran benefit? Is there a cap on those you can give out?
You can sign as many as you want. I would doubt, though. I'll be surprised if he got much of a signing. Maybe they gave him like a $50,000 signing bonus, like Michael Pruitt got as part of that. But I would be a bit surprised if he got the full $167,500, which is the maximum for a vet benefit deal here.
Okay, gotcha. Dave, what else from rookie minicamp? I think the notable thing was Troy Fautanu. The question was, where would he line up initially? Again, the entire roster was not there. We'll get a bit more intel once Broderick Jones, Dan Moore's in camp, who's running first team, second team, left tackle, right tackle. But the reporting from the media is that Fautanu was working exclusively right tackle throughout rookie minicamp, playing left tackle in college in Washington. So it would appear, just based off of that, and again, we'll have to wait and see, get some more information, that Fautanu will work at right tackle with the intention of flipping Broderick Jones from right tackle back to left tackle.
Your biggest storyline to come out of the rookie minicamp, to me, is that note, along with Mason McCormick also seemingly getting a lot of right side work there. To me, that is your single biggest set of storylines to come out. That, and obviously people, I guess, staying healthy, or at least seemingly staying healthy. I don't see how you can get a bigger storyline than that, because it coming out of this draft and getting a tackle, especially one that primarily played on the left side in college. The hopes going into the offseason were that 2024 would produce something along the lines of Broderick Jones getting flipped over more to his natural position of left tackle. And if indeed this stays the course with Fautanu, that's pretty big. So I would call that the biggest storyline to come out of this weekend with the rookie minicamp. I don't see how you can get anything bigger than that.
I agree. I think evaluating skill in these settings, and obviously we personally aren't there like we will be for training camp, but even if we were there or just hearing some of the reporting, it's hard to evaluate. You can do some baseline stuff in terms of athletic traits and movement, but it's generally going to be what you've seen on tape in college until the pads come on.
Football and shorts.
Yeah. Until then, it is truly hard to really evaluate, who did well when it's just super baseline install type of stuff. So I kind of care about, okay, where are guys lining up? Where are teams trying to use their rookies and to start checking some of those boxes, similar to how first couple days of training camp before the pads are on, I'm trying to see, okay, who's running first team? Where are guys lining up? I focus a bit more on that than evaluation, and then pads come on and I'm more focused on evaluation than who's running where and what position. But, with Fautanu, I didn't know exactly which way it would go. The reporting prior to rookie minicamp was suggesting he would go to right tackle. And this team has been wanting to move Broderick Jones back to left tackle, but either way, you're playing a college left tackle at right tackle. So I didn't know exactly which way this team would decide things, but it'll be a transition. I should note, I did some more research into this yesterday. He was a high school right tackle. And obviously I'm not saying because you're a high school right tackle, you can be an NFL right tackle, but at least you have some muscle memory there in terms of knowing the position. And that's kind of his original spot. And we moved to left tackle once he went to Washington. So hopefully he can kind of lean on that a bit to accelerate that learning curve of going back and flipping your steps and your punch and everything you have to kind of do opposite of when you go from left tackle to right tackle. So hopefully it won't be too much of a transition, but there'll probably still be a bit of a learning curve.
Look, getting it underway this early, once again, that's your storyline. To me, if I was away all weekend and I said, tell me two things that happened during rookie minicamp that will tide me over. And the first thing was you tell me Fautanu working almost exclusively at right tackle, and the second one being that these kids came out of the weekend healthy, that would be enough.
What are your thoughts on McCormick playing a lot of right guard?
Good, fantastic, because he's primarily played left guard at, I keep wanting to call it San Diego State, South Dakota State with them. That was his primary position. Damn near what? He logged over 3,000 snaps there, and I don't think how many in the center did I say he had? Like 15?
15 and 17 at right guard.
Right. So the fact that you're look, he knows how to play the left guard spot, right? At this point, so why not try to get him acclimated as best as you can on the right side? So no issue with that whatsoever. Once again, I think that's your storyline. Those two guys working opposite sides, and if that's all you gave me coming out of this weekend, I'm fine with it.
Yeah, I think the overwhelming odds are that McCormick will be a backup to start the year. And with very few exceptions, you better be versatile, at least playing at minimum 2 spots if you are going to be a backup offensive lineman. And so getting that work at right guard to kind of get, your footing down there and start picking that side up. I think he's probably practiced it and played it a bit in games, so it's not, completely foreign to it, I'm sure, but really kind of getting some reps there because he's going to have to be somebody that can't just be the backup left guard. And so, center work, maybe he'll get at some point with Zach Frazier, obviously, that's going to be the guy that gets the bulk of the reps, but you better create some versatility for yourself. And so repping this stuff early, I think it's good for him, good for Fautanu to kind of really focus in on that spot early, get kind of used to that. I wouldn't even want it to be where you're taking half reps at right guard and half reps at left guard in a setting like this. Let's just get one position, get that kind of down pat, and we'll expand from there. So expanding your versatility is going to be always critical for these backup linemen. I think that's a useful start for McCormick to play right guard as opposed to his college left guard spot.
Yeah, look, I mean, there's plenty of time left in the offseason to see how this goes. But, I mean, I think that's a bit of a sign that they want to get those guys used to the opposite side, and why not right out a shoot? Obviously, OTAs will tell us a little bit more, and then obviously getting into training camp, we'll learn a little bit more, and we'll see how it plays out. But once again, I think that's it. That's your storyline with those two.
Sure. I know it's going to be a long process, and snap judgments aren't going to matter that much in May and early June. But I do wonder when OTAs start next week, how will the first team offensive line look? What do you think it'll be? Will it be Jones on the left side, Fautanu on the right side? Will Dan Moore take first reps at left tackle and Jones stay at right tackle? I'm really curious to kind of see how they're going to divvy those reps out.
I don't know, but I mean, if there's anything to take away from, build off of what we just saw or just heard this weekend, like I said, I hope that the outcome of all this is Broderick Jones going over to the left side. From the moment Fautanu was drafted and was primarily a left tackle in college, it made you kind of wonder how the rest of how the offseason would go. So, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what the plan is here, but I would not be surprised if they show up at OTAs and it is Fautanu at right tackle now.
Right, but is that first team? And if so, then Jones would have to go over to left tackle, and then it's more running second string. Not that it's critically important.
Flip a coin. I mean, what does the quarter say that you flip?
Yeah, just curious. I mean, because again, trying to evaluate, skill set's going to be tough to do. I just want to see what their initial plan is to kind of start working guys at different spots and what their thought is. Because Dan Moore's shown staying power, and so could they do something where? I don't know. I mean, will Dan Moore get some right tackle reps? He's probably going to get some. I know it's not his spot. Nobody really wants him to play right tackle, including Dan Moore, but he played even a little bit of right tackle in camp last year when Jones would get the occasional, first team left tackle reps. So they got to give him some reps at right tackle. I don't think it's going to be just playing left tackle only this spring and summer.
Look, the best case scenario is coming out of training camp feeling confident about your starting five, and hopefully if those starting five up front can wind up being Broderick Jones at left tackle, Troy Fautanu at right tackle, and then Dan Moore being your week one swing, that's the ideal situation. So I am for whatever gets that process accomplished.
Yeah, so just something to note, but we'll keep an eye on that going forward. Speaking of where guys were lining up, Erwin Wilson, the wide receiver from Michigan, said he's been working inside and outside, which we kind of had a pretty good inkling he was going to do that going into rookie minicamp. And so not entirely sure if that meant playing every spot, X, C, F, or just, I think he had said on the Steeler podcast, he was going to do just F and Z, but not entirely sure how things look. But he's talked about working on his technique. Coach Zakazani getting on him for needing to be lower, kind of runs a little too high. And of course, when you're going to play on the outside and face some more press coverage, you better be able to be low and work your hands and work your releases better. So Wilson, very aware of what he has to improve upon. Yeah,
we'll see how that progresses when he gets more away from on-air situations there. So, look, teach these guys as much as you can as they're willing to absorb as far as position flexibility, because Lord knows the way injuries sometimes happen. These guys have to move around and, all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, look, it'll be fun to watch his maturation process and reports about him as you move on into OTAs and obviously into more physical type settings like training camp.
Should note as well, Tomlin made one comment on Fautanu and said he was in really good shape, really good condition. And that may seem small, but it's a really important. It's the foundation of every player, Dave, is to be in great physical condition. And you're probably not in peak football shape right now because you've not done football things for several months. But, just that baseline standpoint is when I talk about how to win rookie minicamp, it's really, to me, being coachable and being in great physical condition and just being able to absorb reps and get through a practice, and you earn coaches' trust that way. So small comment from Tomlin, not surprising given that Fautanu's experience, he's older, coached well, good program, professional, all that kind of stuff. But an important box to check for all these rookies is if you're not in shape, nothing else really matters.
Couple of shots that Steelers.com had up on there. You can actually kind of see the arm length with him. with in a couple of those shots that they have on him. There's one obviously too on rookie DB Ryan Watts over at the what is it, the Hall of Honor Museum, I think, up against the wingspan display. he's got that wingspan out there, and it's easy to recognize that. But I mean, there was another shot in another video interview with Fautanu. Man, his face looks so slim, all these guys look a little bit older too,
well, they are. I mean, it's an old draft class.
Yeah. I mean, they definitely have an older, experienced look to them. And that, those are just a couple of things I took away from some things with Fautanu specifically, when it comes to him. And once again, I think there's a couple of still shots on him where you get an idea that he's got some longer arms on him.
Sure, and that's why he's still playing tackle, because the length matters more than the height. 34.5-inch arms. The benchmark minimum is 33 conventionally, although I think most people in this day and age kind of look at 34 plus as what it requires, for these guys to be viewed as tackles by the NFL collective. And Fautanu, I mean, his arm length is nearly the same as Broderick Jones, despite being about 2 inches shorter. So, I see no reason why he would be unable to stay a tackle based off of the size profile alone.
I mean, he's going to get every opportunity to be there, and here's to us hoping it works out.
Anything else from rookie minicamp? Again, it's hard to really evaluate these guys for a multitude of reasons. Anything else? Any other stories stick out to you?
I mean, other than we said there'd be a handful of them getting signed, and there were. So 5 out of 7 of them are now under contract at this point, and the only 2 unsigned are Fautanu and Zach Frazier now at this point. So I guess that would be the other storyline there. I haven't looked to see what's around Frazier as far as who may or may not have signed. That might come down to percentage of the final year. I forget where the cutoff line is on that, but
because sometimes those second rounders can be even trickier to sign than the first round guys.
Yeah, exactly. I think you get into what maybe percentage of the fourth. And look, you're going to get the first 3 years of those guys, I think, fully guaranteed, if memory serves me. But there seems, I can't remember if there's a cutoff there as far as the percentage of the amount of the final year that's fully guaranteed and yada yada. And then I think the only hold up on Fautanu once again would be schedule payout of the signing bonus, because he's going to get, his rookie contract is going to be fully guaranteed. I know there's quite a few first rounders around the league that have agreed to terms. So long story short, I think it's a good thing that you come out of your rookie minicamp and only your top 2 draft picks remain unsigned at this point. They'll obviously get Fautanu and Frazier signed. It just what happens around them and what the time frame is kind of hard to guess. But I would call it a big win that they have 5 of the 7 under contract after the first weekend here.
Agreed, and they'll get the other 2 done before camp. Yeah, just a quick look around Zach Frazier. I'm not seeing anybody else around him. Mike Sanders still, A.D. Mitchell were the 2 players taken before and after Frazier. Okay. I've not seen anything on them being inked to deals, but I think there's only been a couple of second-round picks signed so far. So those things will trickle in. No concern, but they have not happened yet.
Wasn't that something to do with the Porter holdup last year? Let alone with him being a 33rd, the whole talking about. But wasn't it something? Weren't we talking a little bit about percentage of 4th year on that?
Yeah, because Porter's took a long time to get done. Right? When did he sign that deal officially? It was shortly before camp. It was kind of, not that we were concerned, but
on his birthday, actually, wasn't it? July 20, end of July, right? Right before the start of training camp. It was 26th or 27th, I think.
I'm just trying to find the official date on that. I'm not able to pull it up right now. It looks like, let me just, July 25th, it's looking like, which I think was right around the start of camp, within a day or 2. So, okay. Yeah, that was a weird case because, like you said, 32nd player taken, but it was second round, and it was just kind of that whole discussion with the oddity of the Dolphins forfeiting their pick there. So you shouldn't have that kind of issue with Zach Frazier.
And there was a quarterback on the other side of him.
Right. Will Levis was after.
People were wondering about that. I think, let's see, because Levis had something around 91.5% of his total contract guaranteed. And obviously we knew, I think Porter was going to top that. So to be quite honest with you, Zach Frazier might end up being the one that's the last unsigned member of this draft class, because once again, I think Fautanu, the only negotiation I think with him is payout time frame of the bonus. So we could get in a situation here fairly quick where Zach Frazier becomes the last unsigned draft pick that this team has. And then how long that runs into the summer will probably be dictated on who's around them and when those guys come to terms.
Right. We'll keep it posted though. But again, those guys will all be signed before training camp. Long gone are the days of the holdouts and those types of concerns. One player who signed, but not with Pittsburgh, is Bud Dupree, signing a 2-year deal worth up to $10 million with the LA Chargers. He had taken a visit with them last week, had left, and so you weren't sure if they were going to get a deal done or not. Reported interest in Pittsburgh and returning to Atlanta, where he played in 2023, but ultimately has signed with the Chargers.
Good on him for finding somebody to pay him that kind of money, and especially the up to 10 over 2 years. I don't think the Steelers were going to come anywhere close to that, and they especially don't like to do the up to deals along those lines. I can imagine maybe doing something, I don't know, 2 years around 7.5, 8 million. That way they could keep that first year cap hit a little bit lower there with whatever signing bonus and all like that. But I can guarantee you the Steelers' offer wasn't as lucrative as what he probably got from the Chargers there. And good on him finding somebody to pay him that money. I'll be surprised if he lasts 2 years there.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably a year-by-year thing on that 2-year deal for not a ton of money overall. According to Ian Rappaport, the base value is 2 years, $6 million. So we had guessed on Friday be about $3 million per year, which is what he played for roughly last year. Had 6.5 sacks with Atlanta, kind of bouncing back. So yeah, I just think probably from an opportunity standpoint and from a financial standpoint, with the up to kind of, I assume, incentive-based language, was not going to allow Dupree to come to Pittsburgh, although I think Jeremy Fowler said there was strong consideration about it. But as you said, the money probably was just the sticking point for Dupree.
Look, I think best case scenario with this Steelers team right now is obviously everybody on that depth chart at the outside linebackers position stay healthy the remainder of the offseason, and Herbig goes ahead and continues to take the next step forward and can be that number 3 for you. And then you get somebody like either Jeremiah Moon or one of these other younger kids that can help out on special teams, potentially maybe be your 4th string guy there. So, it's obviously way early in the process. We'll see if they keep 4 or 5 at the outside linebacker position in total. Obviously, if they do keep 5, number 4 and 5 better be able to play a little bit on special teams. That's something that you weren't going to get out of Bud Dupree, or even if you brought Marcus Golden back at this point, that's something that you're not going to get. So I'm fine with the depth that they have, especially when you have a guy like Moon that's got some snap experience with the Ravens and all, can obviously play on special teams. So just keep everybody healthy, and I think that depth chart would be fine.
Sure, but even with an injury, there is, I think, some depth there better than some years past. I'm really excited for Herbig in year 2. And Moon is a developmental guy. He is not ready as a pass rusher right now, but their size, I think he can hold up against the run and play as a core 4th phase special teamer. And so there's some improvement he'll have to make to really round out the room, but there's potential there with the youth they have with Herbig and Moon. I mean, signing Dupree would have been fine. Again, I would appreciate them adding to their depth and being as quality as they could. It's such a pillar foundational position of that defense. I mean, if you don't have good pass rushers on the outside, as Pittsburgh has seen, sans TJ Watt, the defense really struggles and falters and falls apart. So it is so critical. Could they bring back Marcus Golden, right around training camp if they're interested in Dupree? Maybe they were still looking for some additional depth there. I mean, Golden with his connection to Denzel Martin, he played fine last year. Not even guaranteeing he would make the 53, but I wouldn't rule that out come closer to camp.
No, I wouldn't rule it out, but I think he would be wise because you got to imagine people aren't beating down his door even to this point here. So could an injury happen somewhere around the leg that makes him I wouldn't be in a rush if I were him. I would do my own conditioning on the side and see what's out there closer to the time training camp starts. When did he sign last year with the Steelers?
That's a good question. It wasn't super late into the summer, I don't think. I think it was, and power of the internet, we'll just look it up here so I don't have to him and haw. May 24th, so actually right around this time last year.
All right.
Yeah, so, I wouldn't expect him to sign tomorrow, and he may even wait until mid-camp until an injury somewhere else around the league were to take place. But I just wonder if Pittsburgh would reach out and try to bring him back if he feels like the league interest is not there.
I mean, he outplayed a veteran benefit deal last year, didn't he? Don't you envision? Don't you feel like he did by a little bit?
Yeah, I think from a talent production standpoint, but he is 33. He's still going to be a backup, more limited guy. And if the market's not really there for him, you take what you can take at this point.
Right. I mean, if he does get more than that, it won't be much more.
Yeah, I mean, he would get the max veteran benefit contract, so he would get the full signing bonus for whatever that's worth. So we'll see, but just a thought there. But Dupree will not be a Pittsburgh Steeler. No reunion on that front. Dave, what else do we have here? Schedule release, next big thing coming up on the calendar that will officially be released Wednesday at 8 p.m., although we imagine schedule leaks will come out maybe tomorrow. I think NFL will also announce select games. They've already begun that this morning. And usually the schedule starts leaking out throughout the day on Wednesday. We know 2 games officially so far, right? We know the Eagles and Packers Brazil game on that first Friday of the NFL week 1, and then announced today is Ravens and Chiefs week 1. Is that the first game of the year on that Thursday?
Yeah, Thursday, September 5th, Ravens at Chiefs. And then, as you mentioned, the following day, Friday, September 6th, you got Packers and Eagles in Sao Paulo. And obviously 3 of those teams are on the Steelers schedule this year, Ravens, Chiefs, and Eagles. So we can officially roll out that the Steelers will play the Ravens, Chiefs, or Eagles in week 1. So I've already got my my little Excel sheet set up with red for all those teams in week 1. Now, don't the Pirates play at home that first week, at least on that Saturday, or on that Sunday?
They do. I think they're at home basically the whole week, Sunday, Monday. Obviously, they won't do the Thursday game. So, unfortunately, typically what that means is Pittsburgh will begin the year on the road.
Okay, so if indeed, and that's a big if at this point, they are on the road for week 1, we know they won't be playing Baltimore. We know they won't be playing the Eagles on the road. So that leaves Cincinnati, Cleveland, Atlanta, Denver, Indy, Las Vegas, and Washington, if indeed the week 1 games on the road. Surely they would not send the Steelers out to Las Vegas in week 1, right?
You would hope not.
Can by process of silly podcast ruling out here, can we kind of rule out?
I mean, San Francisco came to Pittsburgh in week 1 last year, so the NFL probably isn't super against that, and there might also be like, okay,
and the Steelers played in Vegas in like week 3 last year, didn't they? Week 3 or week 4? It was 4? Early.
Yeah, I think week 3. Yeah.
I mean, surely they won't send them out there that early. I mean, even if they,
I don't know. I mean, they could.
Process of elimination.
Yeah, I wouldn't rule it out.
A week 1 game in Atlanta would be interesting. Once again, what are the odds of the Steelers playing in division in week 1 at either Cincinnati or Cleveland? I think by just sitting in mom's basement blogger process of elimination. I like the chances of that game being either against the Broncos, Colts, or Commanders. That's the three that I feel like I have it narrowed down in my head as.
Yeah, obviously Denver's the elephant in the room, given the Russell Wilson storylines there. And I'm betting the NFL should and would prefer to have that game earlier, just in off chance that Wilson were to be hurt or benched by Justin Fields, any scenario like that. So I think that game will be early. I think it's probably the front runner for week 1, but I think also at Atlanta would be pretty interesting too for the Arthur Smith storyline.
Yeah, I would think one of those two would present yourself with the best quote unquote storyline of week 1 when it comes to the Steelers and their schedule there. So I'm rooting for, if it is away, it be in the Denver game, and then if it's second, my second one would be at Atlanta, I think.
On the off chance it's a home game, the home opponents this year that aren't the Ravens or the Chiefs, because those have already been spoken for. You have the Bengals, Browns, Cowboys, Chargers, Giants, and Jets. If it happened to be at home, what would you be most interested in? And I'll tell you this: it won't be the Jets, because the Jets are not going to open up at home this year, considering Aaron Rodgers played all 4 snaps last year. So I'd be very shocked if they were on the road to begin their season.
If it's not divisional, then I think the most intriguing one would be the Cowboys.
Okay, I'll say Cowboys is good. I'll say Chargers, again, just for the Harbaugh first game back in the NFL. Herbert, expectations are going to be high. They're going to be everybody's sleeper pick this year. They typically are, but especially this year, just kind of given Harbaugh's track record, I think that one would be super interesting.
And that's nothing but a bunch of dart throws.
Yes, that's what we're here for on this Monday. We'll let you know when the schedule comes out. Nothing set in stone right now for Pittsburgh, but stuff will come out by Wednesday's show, I'm sure.
Yeah, we'll mark the leaks off as they go, and then obviously, let's see, the next time we're on is Wednesday morning, so we won't know anything there.
Might be some leaks by then, because this stuff starts leaking out on Wednesday, maybe during the show, post show probably. Don't
the morning network shows start? I mean, they already leaked the one out obviously this morning. Today's Monday, so maybe we'll get a few more leaks Tuesday and then Wednesday morning, something to talk about to help with the process of elimination there. But I'm not sure I'll be around for the Friday show, so that might be you and Josh, or you and Ross, or you and Joe, or something like that, talking about the actual schedule.
Yeah, I think the NFL, I guess you can't call it a leak because they're announcing it, but they will announce select marquee, holiday games, primetime games ahead of the Wednesday 8 p.m. deadline or date, schedule release date. So we should know some more NFL games set in stone prior to then. But again, last year, we knew their entire schedule, the Steelers schedule, before it even the release dropped at 8 p.m. The only question really by then should be, what quirky video will the Steelers do to release their schedule? That's like the social media, event of the summer, or event of the whole year. The Chargers are famous for their crazy viral schedule release announcements, and Pittsburgh last year did like a weird 1950s "you're scheduled and you" kind of thing this century. So that's kind of the highlight for social media teams.
Yeah, and he ended up not even making making a roster.
Don't be on the schedule release video this year is the message to be sent, I suppose. All right, Dave, anything else?
Did we hit everything that we wanted to hit on this? Are we even an hour into this thing?
No, we are barely a half hour into this thing.
What are your you wrote about your concerns about each Steelers draft pick? Kind of quickly review that.
Yeah, I mean, this is not to be a hyper criticism, and I think obviously when for all fan bases, all analysis of draft picks, I think you take a look at the more optimistic view, what guys can do as opposed to what they can't do. And I'm happy with the draft class overall. I gave it an A- on our grade thing that we did with Josh Carney post draft. And so I just wanted to at least look at the other side and say, what is a potential issue with each of these guys that may be something to watch for? It's not to say that these guys are all, giant issues or won't be successful because of this, but just to kind of look at the other side of the coin after looking at a lot of the positives and highlights, which we have done and will continue to do. So I'll just run through them here briefly. With Fautanu, I don't see necessarily one major issue. I thought there was a bit of lunging and leaning in his game and pass protection, and then dealing with moving to right tackle. Again, being a high school right tackle, that should maybe accelerate the learning curve in terms of rejogging that muscle memory, but it's not a giant concern. But I thought in this game there was a little bit of forward lean. I think he'll have to kind of sit in this stance a little bit more than he did in college.
All right, that's fair enough. And obviously, as you mentioned, a position switch to see how that transpires, if indeed it does, over to the right side the rest of the summer.
And then there may be some things that Pat Meyer will want him to get rid of in his game. He uses that bait hand, that dead hand, which Meyer is generally against because he says it kind of messes with your punch. You have to fake your punch and then pull back and then punch again. Maybe he'll let Fautanu do it if he can kind of show that he can do it well. It's one of the tools in his tool belt as in his pass sets. But we'll have to kind of see how he maybe adjusts things from there. On Zach Frazier, kind of a catch-all. He's not a super high ceiling guy, and he's not going to be the next Marquise Pouncey, the next borderline Hall of Fame center, which is fine. He does not have to be. It's a second-round pick. You're not really a stinking Hall of Fame for any of these guys, but he's not going to be that super elite top tier type of center. And I think more specifically, he catches a little too much in pass protection. He's got to be able to probably do a better job with his initial punch and being able to really create that first significant contact. Is the big phrase under Pat Meyer. And just given the scheme where centers are typically seeing more, 1v1 action, getting less help from the guards as opposed to other systems. The guards help the tackles in Pittsburgh when they're uncovered. I think Frazier will have to work on that initial punch a little bit better in pass pro.
All right, that's fair.
With Wilson, just kind of the combination of that lack of size and then the lack of yak. Because, Clayton Echard did a really good study, and you kind of felt this on tape. There wasn't a lot of yak with Roman Wilson. He doesn't have the strength and that really super explosive ability in the open field to make guys miss. He does go down, I think, pretty easily in open grass. And so for maybe a slot guy, you'd like a little more yak opportunities with him. Again, smooth route runner, polished, good hands. But that combination of not having great size, strength, and yak ability is a little concerning.
Yeah, what did I put on him in 2023? Let's see, the average depth of completion. Let's see, where did I have his yak at? I remember it was a little lower there. Average depth of trying to look it up real quick. In totality, he registered an average depth of target of 13.9 yards. In 2023, his average depth of completion past the original line of scrimmage was an impressive 12.8 yards. I'm trying to find, I don't remember where I had his average, but I do remember his yards after the catch wasn't as high as what I thought maybe it would be.
Now, granted, I assume guys with deeper and better depth of targets don't typically have as good a yak, because if you're running, screen games, so Malachi Corley has a great yak because everything's so short and it's based off of, getting yak and doing something after the catch on the quick game, one-step game, screen game. So that may be an impact. But even just watching him on tape, the guy I thought went down on first contact pretty consistently.
221 of his receiving yards in 2023 came after the catch, and he had 48 receptions. So let's see, 221 divided by 48 would be 4.6, which it obviously isn't awful, man. If you register 4.6 yards after catching the NFL, there's absolutely zero wrong with that.
Yeah, I just know that study that Clayton did kind of highlighted his yak, comparatively speaking, being right on the lower side. And again, just watching him, how many broken tackles did he make last year? I didn't see much evidence of that.
Right.
Anyway, next round or next selection here, Peyton Wilson. I thought as a run defender, his hand use could be better. I thought he did a little bit because he was so athletic going around blocks. A little bit on that, but also just kind of spinning off of blocks and kind of turning his back to the football as well to, get off a block. And so I think he'll have to work on that. The lack of length is an issue with him because he does have really short arms. And so I think he'll have to work on that block deconstruction a bit better.
Yeah, look, one of the things, like I said, that stuck out was just the high tackling more than anything with him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's also one thing I think kind of getting a little bit lower as a tackler will do him some good. Mason McCormick is one guy I do have, I think, a lot of legitimate concerns with, and it's not because he's not talented or anything like that. There's a lot of it's attractive because he's got the size, the testing in terms of the athleticism and the experience. And so I'm not knocking that, but I just think he'll have to work on his footwork in a lot of different ways. We talked about on a recent show as a puller, which is kind of one of his calling cards. They skip pulled at South Dakota State primarily. He'll have to do square pulling. You can overcome that. It's not the most difficult thing. I think he'll be able to handle that, but it is an adjustment. I just think in general, especially for guards in Pat Meyer's system, there's, you think, even an additional learning curve in terms of your pass sets and just kind of the nature of how aggressive you are that most guys have to try to adjust to and overcome. I think it'll be kind of bigger for McCormick, who's not, again, he tested well, but I thought on tape he wasn't as athletic. And so I think some of the more lateral movement in terms of how he has to set will be an issue for him. It's not like you can kind of take some steps back and anchor because he is so strong. It's not how it's taught, not how it works in Pittsburgh system. So that'll be an adjustment. And I just thought, as a zone blocker, getting to the second level, making contact, being able to kind of, change your path a little bit. On tape, I thought he was inconsistent in terms of hitting that moving target in space on the combo blocks. And that's going to be an issue in this. Again, it won't be an exclusively zone system, but it's a wide zone based system.
I think one of the things we talked about right after he was drafted as well, too, if he does get beat sometimes in pass protection, it's kind of like inside moves where twist right. or Euro steps or something like that, where a defender changes direction on him and gets into an inside position across the face on him.
Yeah, again, those kind of shorter lateral steps and redirecting and changing directions, it's not ideally his game. He's a wider body that's strong and has a good punch overall, but in terms of making some of those more nuanced and smaller athletic changes, I don't think that's him. Now, as a puller, I think he's got burst out of his stance. He's kind of like Jackson Powers Johnson, where like he's not a bad athlete. I don't want to say he's some big just lumber around the field. He's not, but he's good in a line and he's got burst. But when you have to kind of make some of those change of direction movements and change your steps a little bit on the fly, that's where he begins to miss.
Look, if he's able to line you up and get you to accept being a dance partner, you're in trouble.
Right, but sometimes the defenders know they don't want to become dance partners with Mason McCormick. Their goal is to work around him, not dance with him. All right, on Logan Lee, with him, it's kind of a catch-all. I just don't know what that defining physical trait he has is. I think his best trait is his motor, his effort, his chase and pursuit. I think he's functionally decently strong. He's not the worst athlete I've seen, but I just don't know what kind of really stands out about his game. I mean, as a one-gapper, he had more success than two-gapping, but he's a slow burn pass rusher. He's not particularly twitchy or athletic or powerful. He can get washed, can play a little too high. The lack of length really hurts him as a pass rusher and his run defense. He gets too chest to chest in the run game, can't really create space and get vision on the football. So I just wonder physically, what that skill set is that stands out with him.
Yeah, it's the old saying in the pants with me. That's the thing that stuck out because there are some impressive pass rush reps with him. I think overall, I think it was fun to watch him and McCormick actually go against each other a couple of years ago in that Iowa game there. But the biggest concern I had with him right out of the chute early on in the offseason is can he plan himself enough when he needs to?
Right, which goes back. I mean, he can add weight. I'm confident with that frame. He can add 15 or so pounds.
Yeah, but can you use it? And,
sure.
And integrate it into your game.
Yeah, I think he'll have to work on his leverage a bit, and that's going to be important because he's a little bit taller, which is what Pittsburgh looks for.
I couldn't help but think back to who was it? Brent Urban is constantly the guy I come up with, kind of with a comp on him.
If he becomes Urban,
years
I'll
ago.
Take it. I mean, because that guy's had a long career. I wonder if he'll be less Brent Urban. I'm trying to think of more of, I don't know, LT Walton, something like that is kind of my concern with Logan Lee. And I get he's a 6th-round pick. He's not going to be this amazing prospect, but even some 6th-round picks have defining physical traits where they're really excel at this one thing. I don't see that with Logan Lee.
All right. And Watts.
Ryan Watts. I mean, some of this was on position fit. Is he a corner? Is he a safety? The lack of college production. If you're not really productive in college, will you be productive at the NFL level? I dug into his tape, though, late last night. I'll do a video on it probably for Tuesday or Wednesday. he's grabby. I mean, he wasn't penalized a ton in college. I think 3 each of his last 2 years at Texas, but he's a guy that gets panicky, and there's this line he'll have to walk because he is so big and long, and he uses that length effectively in a lot of cases, but he will get grabby downfield and, past the 5-yard kind of zone that you'll get in the NFL. So that's going to be something he'll have to really work on, is just trying to play a bit cleaner, kind of walk that line better. And then the long speed is a concern too. I think you kind of see him as a 4-5 kind of guy on tape where he can get beat vertically.
I think he does read well. Routes. There are instances with him sticking against some good receivers. Adunze's one of them, had some good reps on, even though there's some balls were caught against him. I thought he was in good position on a few of those there. I know there's a lot of talk about, is he corner, is he safety, all like that. I think you absolutely got to at least work him initially at corner and see how that goes. Physical guy, not afraid to use that physicality and tackle. So that's attractive about him. As far as the grabbiness, wasn't that kind of the MO on Joey Porter Jr. coming out as well too?
Sure. No, it definitely was something with him. But does he have, I don't know, the overall man coverage ability of a Joey Porter Jr. right now? And Porter cleaned that up his last year. I thought he played a lot cleaner at Penn State, and penalties was an issue though this year. I mean, I agree with that. So it's a little bit of that, but does he have the high end man coverage tools? I thought Porter was a bit more fluid. Now I think Watts can be really fluid in terms of kind of coming downhill and covering curls and comebacks and kind of dropping his weight. I mean, he had like a 6.82 3-cone time, which is a really, really good time for almost any DB, especially one kind of as big and as heavy as he is. Where I thought he struggled fluidity-wise was on in-breaking routes, on slants and digs. You kind of see him play a little high. You see a little more stiffness on tape there. So there are times where you can really see fluidity in him, be able to drive and match. And there are some really impressive reps on tape, which I think is exciting and encouraging. But I think on some of the in-breaking stuff, he gets a little too tight. And that's where you see a little bit of that, okay, is he a corner or is he a safety conversation come in?
All right. It'll be interesting to watch his path and positionally moving on through the summer.
Yeah, we should note as well, he missed the Friday, first day of minicamp, because he was at his Texas graduation and then came back in, I think, Friday night and then practiced on Saturday and Sunday. So not knocking that. I mean, it's good for him to be there and to have that moment, but just want to make one other quick storyline note on rookie minicamp.
Yeah, plenty of time to catch the moving train, and that'll start at OTAs.
Yeah, and it's nice for Pittsburgh to allow him to go, because I imagine some teams would say you're not allowed to leave and go graduate. So cool that Pittsburgh gave him that permission. All right, Dave, anything else or any other news coming in? I haven't really checked the news wire too much here today.
I haven't seen anything else. Let's get into some reader emails here. Got a few of them, I think.
Okay, some reader emails and close out today's show. Reminder, Dave and I will have our live stream tonight at, what time is it? 7 p.m. Eastern time.
Is this our first one since the draft? No,
we had the day after draft weekend. We had one, yeah.
All right. Michael Rocket writes in, Dear men of the Terrible Podcast, I don't doubt that Roman Wilson is a hard worker, as someone who doesn't know how to watch film and understand good route running. I feel uninspired watching Roman's film. Didn't see an elusive wide receiver with lots of run after catch or spectacular contested catches. As a contrast, George Pickens' college highlights were eye-popping. Please help me understand how to appreciate Roman's route running. I think if you were to just to watch, and hopefully, Michael, you looked at the contextualization on him from 2023. I wanted to hold off and let people digest a little bit about that before I posted the 2021, which we'll post sometime this week here. But Alex and I have talked about the results of that a little bit more and how he played a little bit more outside. I think if you just watch his 2023 targets, I can see maybe where you feel that, look, there are not a lot of contested catches on his tape overall. So there is that aspect. What he does have as far as contested catches are impressive. Man, that one in the end zone against Nebraska, caught it behind the guy's head and all, super impressive there. The yards after the catch stuff, sometimes if you catch the football further down the field, Are they going and thus not out in space a lot? And a lot of his catches were outside the numbers if they weren't. Look, when he caught the ball in the middle of the field, it was usually in the red zone and in the end zone for a touchdown. You can't fault the guy for not having yards after the catch when he's already scored in that. So that's one thing that isn't taken into consideration is, well, look at the touchdowns that he caught, and most of those were in the end zone. So you're not going to have the yards after the catch ability right there. But I can see where you look at it in totality and don't come away with a warm and fuzzy as far as contested and run after catch. Now, I think Alex just had a video just not too long ago about his separation, his route running, albeit a lot of stuff against off coverage with him. But I don't think there's anything wrong with what we saw in 2023 tape specifically as far as route running with the coverages that he was going against and those kind of things. I think he represented himself well as far as that goes.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. He's not George Pickens. He's not going to have the wow. He's not built that way. He's not as big as just kind of freak athlete as Pickens is. So most guys you watch on tape aren't going to be at that Pickens wow level. But I agree. I mean, Wilson's tape was not the most exciting prospect in part because Michigan was like, it was almost the McCarthy issue, because some of the issue with McCarthy was, he didn't make a lot of plays because he didn't have to do too much at Michigan. But whenever he had to make plays, he did make those plays in the Alabama game and to win a national title, for example. And Wilson's kind of in the same boat. I mean, it was such a stacked team and well-coached team. Guys were schemed open and just were able to dominate so much that it kind of felt easy in some sense. But again, to me, the number one thing you have to have as a receiver is you got to get open. You got to be able to be a guy that can run good routes, precise routes, and get open, which Pittsburgh has kind of been lacking in some past years. Pickens is not the most precise route runner in the world, for example. Johnson's was a very good route runner, but didn't have a lot beyond that. And so Wilson's a guy that can separate, can get open, can catch the ball. If you can get open and catch the ball, you're going to probably have some measure of success. I don't think his upside is, I don't think he'll ever be a number one receiver in the sense of defined as the passing game runs through him. I think will be a complementary piece throughout his career, even at kind of his ceiling. But that's fine. Pittsburgh does not necessarily need a true number one receiver when you have George Pickens there. So point taken overall, but he's a guy that's just, smooth and fluid and gets open with a good pair of hands and a good attitude. You can work with that for a third round pick.
Yeah. Willing blocker on tape. Only one drop last year. Mm-hmm. Not a lot of drops, period, during his college career. Usually when when they threw him the football, he had nice separation, was open, good hands catcher there. I mean, he's a third round guy. I mean, I think some of the things maybe that Michael list here is part of the reason maybe why he was a third round guy. But you see pretty good, a lot of great wide receivers have come out of third round draft picks and all. This was a good wide receiver class, top to bottom.
Yeah, the Jets were going to consider taking him as early as, I think, 53 overall, and they were trying to trade up, and they had their sights on Malachi Corley, who they got, but Wilson was their backup plan. We'd have to go back to watch some Senior Bowl reps, too, because he had a really good Senior Bowl week. Him and Quinyon Mitchell, who, first cornerback taken, I believe, right? He went before Arnold, and so, I mean, those guys had really good reps, and they both had their share of wins. I don't love judging some of the 1v1 stuff at the Senior Bowl. I think sometimes people make a little too much out of it, but when you're watching, good on good, best on best, and guys like Wilson win, that's notable as well.
All right, Brett Nile, tinfoil hat question. Loved your interviews with the beat writers the other day. I have one comment, then a question. See if my tinfoil hat is on too tight. First, I don't understand the reasoning of the Seattle beat writer. With all due respect, you don't sign a third contract wide receiver in their late 20s as part of a rebuilding process, and you don't expect a third contract receiver to become a leader. That's a guy you sign or bring in as part of a win now move. To me, the most powerful argument right now is Dave's point that if they were going to build around him, they would have already restructured his deal. They may not trade him, but the only reason I can see for not doing it yet is that you want to keep your options open. He goes on to say, my question is it possible the Steelers have already agreed in principle to a trade and are just waiting until after June 1st to announce it? Am I right that you can't make a trade and designate it post June 1st like you do a roster cut? Could that explain what happened to Bryant McFadden? He was told they're trading for Metcalf or Sutton, and he ran with it, not realizing it can't be completed until after June 1st. Yeah, I don't want to try to get into the whole McFadden thing. Didn't McFadden say it was like a friend of a friend or something? Or
it was a friend. It was not a direct Steelers connection, and he was told multiple names, not even just one or two. It didn't sound like. I think that's a little too tinfoil hats, a little on tight for that one in terms of trying to explain that situation away.
As far as his analysis about what Greg Bell had said about DK Metcalf and all, I don't want to try to dig too deep into the third contract, becoming a leader. Look, the biggest thing that I'm wondering about at this point. Look, I mean, it's hard not to come out of that interview with Greg Bell thinking, ain't no way in hell the Seattle's going to trade DK Metcalf. To me, that's the other side of the fence, and really, there's, to me, a lot of their great bloggers on that side of the fence and beat writers. None of them are really entertaining the thought that DK Metcalf's going to be traded. I mean, I dare you to find really anybody reputable who covers the team to really think that that's an option. Now, moving backwards from that, assuming that there's no way in hell that it's going to happen, the only thing that's got my attention really at this point is, okay, if they're up against the cap like they are, and we all know that there's several more things that they got to be able to handle. They got to handle a $4 million practice squad. They're going to have to probably $5-6 million in salary cap space to start the season just for in-season moves. I don't know how they operate. I don't intimately know the way they, and they hired a new cap guy too, don't they? Then they just the Seahawks just recently announced, I think it was even after the draft, a new cap guy. Who is that?
It looks like a Joey Lane, new VP of Football Administration, formerly of the Packers and Bears.
Right. So maybe nothing happened up until that, and maybe he's still trying to get a grasp and see what the spreadsheets and map out a 3-5 year plan for them as far as that goes there. But the one of the biggest questions I've had about this is, and look, I think it's easy to at least look at the Seahawks roster, just even on over the cap, and sort it, and who are their true restructure candidates, who are guys that are true maybe extension candidates this offseason. And as far as restructure candidates go at this point, there's not many of them. And DK Metcalf is one of them. And even if you restructured his deal in a traditional sense right now, there's only not even $6 million to be had there. I guess my biggest question, if indeed DK Metcalf was going to be a slam dunk member of your 2024 team with the Seahawks, and if indeed an extension with him this summer just isn't very plausible to happen. Remember, he just got extended a couple of years ago, right? And he's at a pretty good average yearly value of like what, 25 million as it is right now. If you accept those two things there, then why haven't they restructured his deal to go ahead and get that done right now? Is this a thing of just wanting to get him deeper into the summer, make sure he doesn't get injured, make sure you're not, in other words, we know that's coming. We know there's room there. We know we can navigate around it until we make such a move where it comes to restructure to free up the room. That would be the only kind of question that I have about his situation right now is, okay, if he's going to be part of your plan in 2024, and I don't argue that that's the end in game scenario with him, why haven't they redone his deal yet?
Yeah, that's the only, I think, part that can grab me a little bit, but the answer could just be they haven't had to yet. They've been able to function throughout their offseason with other more minor restructures and other cap moves and be okay. And so when they have to do it, they will do it. They already did Tyler Lockett, and that helped get them through, the offseason and free agency, et cetera. So yeah, I don't think there's any chance there's a deal set in place. It just has to wait until June 1st. That wouldn't be able to be sat for a month and no one report that stuff out. DK would make someone probably aware of that fact at some point as well. So I don't see that being the scenario at all. Again, I don't think it's going to happen. If it does, June 1st, June 2nd, to release it could, and we'll kind of pick it back up then.
And look, I mean, he's not showing any signs. I think there's pictures of him at the off-season practices and all.
Yeah, he wouldn't be there if they were told you're going to Pittsburgh on June 2nd.
I don't think so either. Now, look, things can happen. Stranger things have happened before, but I don't, could this be more fluid and maybe conversation? I don't think anything's agreed upon right now, just waiting for the calendar to get to June 2nd. I am more in the camp at this point of there is no way in hell, really what Greg Bell had explained to us there. But however, if there was one thing to have the tinfoil hat on about, I would wonder, why a restructure hasn't happened yet. But make no mistake about it that nothing's going to happen with him until after June 1st, if anything indeed does happen with him, because of the dead money situation and related to the rules of post June 1st. But let me tell you, if they ended up dealing him on June the 2nd or anytime after June 1st, I think you're going to have a lot of surprise people on that side of the Seahawks fence.
Yeah, I think you certainly would.
I think Sutton now becomes, if there's anybody whatsoever, when you look around, because who else signed over the Zay signed over the weekend, right?
Zay Jones with Arizona.
Yeah. I mean, that list has dwindled down next to nothing. I mean, if the Steelers did add a significant quote unquote playmaker at this point, it has felt for quite a while now that such a significant playmaker would have to come via a trade. And other than Burks is not a needle mover for me with Tennessee. Neither is the Giants wide receiver personally. Slayton, to me, it feels like it's Courtland Sutton or bust when it comes to such a thing that fits the criteria there.
Sure, I've said since really the Niners stuff was put to bed post draft that if there was a guy they were going to go after, Sutton I think has always even made the most amount of sense even before the 49ers stuff in terms of what's the most likely thing to occur, because it'd be such less costly to acquire Courtland Sutton. I mean, Ayuk would have, taken, they wanted a first round pick, but even if you assume you can get it for a second, you're paying the guy $30 million per year. Sutton's not going to command, almost half of that, even on an extension. So I imagine Pittsburgh probably called Seattle and just checked in, and they said, no, thank you. And Pittsburgh probably checks in again on June 2nd and says, anything change, and go from there.
Right. Long story short, Brett, I'm a big fan of wearing tinfoil hats. I think might have it on a little bit too tight there. We'll see how the process plays out. And look, if they end up trading him, DK Metcalf after June 1st, I think you can look back at some of these things like the non-restructure not happening this early in the offseason as maybe, well, there was a sign or two there,
Yeah, and you'll let us know about it.
I'm not expecting it, though.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Anything else from Emo Machine?
I I think we got the two of them out of the way there that we're on here. So I think we're good to go here. And let's see, you and I will be back on Wednesday. We'll see what breaks as far as schedule leaks between then. We'll see if this team adds any more to their offseason 90-man roster. Moving forward, we should have some contract info to pass along. There was no NFLPA update for the Steelers this morning, so I would imagine that's going to happen maybe Tuesday. There, we'll know about all the undrafted guys, Scotty Miller's contract, maybe Everett's contract details and all like that. So we'll see what we have to talk about Wednesday morning. So in the meantime, you can follow me on Twitter/X at Steelers Depot. Follow Alex at Alex_Kozora. Follow the show at Terrible Podcast. Email the show, theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. If you like what we do and want to donate, SteelersDepot.com. Hit the donate button, upright navigational bar. Also, if you like an ad-free version of the site, SteelersDepot.com. Hit the ad-free button, upright navigational bar, and follow the directions that way. So until Wednesday and until later tonight with the YouTube live stream Q&A, which you can find on Alex Kozora's YouTube channel. As always, thanks for listening to the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Alex.